Wubba dubba doo to you. No idea what that means. Today we're gonna be reacting to the rise and fall of Sparkling Zero, the Dragon Ball game. So let's see. This one came out last year, if I'm not wrong, 2024. It came. Was it all of a sudden? Was it like one of those what they called shadow drops? I think it was, right? Oh no, no. I think no. It might have been in one of those event game like release events maybe. Otherwise, I think it was a shadow drop. Everyone loved it. Talked about how good it was. You know, game of the year, etc., 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 etc. Then, when did it just like completely vanish from the gaming scene? I think it was after the Game Awards, maybe, that people just completely forgot about it, and I just didn't hear anything about it again. I guess because they just finished the story, right? It was like a 1 or 2 week story. But yeah, everyone was hyping it, talking about how good it was, and all that shit. Kind of like how they're doing it with the Expedition 33 or 31 right now, where everyone just talks about how good it is. You know, this is a warning to the video game scene. Oh, this is a wake up call. The usual. Then again, I mean, like it's called Expedition. Let's see, because apparently it's like one of the like highest rated games ever. Like even in Metacritic. Like, dude, what am I doing? Why am I whatever? Yeah, masterpiece, 10 out of 10. It's a turn-based like combat game with like Dark Souls mechanics or like pairing and shit like that. Like with quick time events. I wasn't expecting that, dude. Fuck Dragon's Dogma, by the way. Fucking hell. Some enemies are just so disgusting to fight. Anyways, let's get back into the video. Hopefully this game, Expedition 33, isn't, you know, it's not being overhyped as like a recorrection of like bad like DEI or slop games that have been being released. Because that's what I feel people are doing now. They're getting like games like Sparkling Zero and Expedition 33, and they're like putting them on a pedestal, even though they're like mid or like average, to like go against the whole like DEI, bad games, shitty like developers shit, narrative that's been going on for a couple years.
On March 5th, 2023,
Let's start. Oh, it was 2023.
we thought Dragon Ball Gaming had changed forever. No! What?
Let's go down a bit. It's a bit loud.
Everyone thought this was going to be the next Dragon Ball game they played for years. But unfortunately, just 6 months after launch, that isn't the case at all. What went wrong? How did the most anticipated Dragon Ball game possibly ever go from peak?
I mean, this one had, you could mod like characters into this, right? I feel like when you add modding into a game, even a mid or average game goes to good just because the modders are like so fucking good at making like interesting things and like adding fun gameplay mechanics or fixing shitty ones into like passable or good ones. So it is pretty weird that it just died.
Excitement to what we see today.
I guess maybe it was too unbalanced because there was like the monkey thing and the sparkling mode, I think it was called, when you go like red. Maybe that?
A title that's been mostly forgotten.
Like, didn't make it fun.
We're going to dive deep into the complete story of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, from its pre-release hype to the...
I only saw a bit of. Sorry for pausing. So I'm like 5 minutes into like this video. Oh, the video I'm recording, and it's only 36 seconds. And I feel like most of the gameplays I've seen from it, they've just. Well, I haven't seen any actual PvP, but I'm talking about like story gameplay. They've just gone into like the red mode or like the sparkling mode, and just autoed them to death. Like the enemy to death. It seemed
the
pretty
future
meh.
of the series with an actual hint from the main producer himself. But what went wrong? Could it have been avoided? And most importantly, is there any hope for a revival? So sit back, maybe grab a G Fuel.
There's always hope.
We are sponsored by them. And
Dragon Ball has a huge fan base. If they fix or add like more things, they'll come back. They just gotta make it good.
Rise and fall. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. To fully understand why Sparking Zero had so much motion pre-release.
Unless the core mechanics are what's bad, in that case it can't be fixed. Since it's the core mechanics, you can't really fix those. But if it's side mechanics or like added mechanics, you can. With like modding and shit like that. Or just a patch.
We have to go back to November 2002, where
like sparkling mode, that is a core mechanic.
Notable and accessible Dragon Ball game in the West, Dragon Ball Z Budokai, which would go on to sell 3.5 million copies and spawn 2 sequels that would total a whopping 7.4 million copies sold for the original Budokai trilogy. However, Budokai plays closer to a Tekken-style game and was very revolutionary compared to previous Dragon Ball titles by all means, but it didn't fully encapsulate the Dragon Ball experience, which is why Atari approached Spike to develop a Dragon Ball game where you could move freely and fight opponents in a large arena type stage that of course would become known as Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, released in 2005. And just like the original Budokai series would also spawn 2 sequels, and the series would go on to sell an impressive 7.5 million copies, with almost 4 million of those coming from just Budokai Tenkaichi 3.
Yeah, but that's 7.5 million in 2005, right? Or did he already like make up for the inflation?
7.5 million copies, with almost 4 million of those coming from just Budokai Tenkaichi 3.
That's a lot more back then. If
you combine the sales of the next 5 mainline Dragon Ball game releases, they still didn't sell as much as either Budokai 1 or Budokai Tenkaichi 3 did alone. So when you ask someone what their favorite original Dragon Ball game is, it's no surprise that the most common answer you get is one of the Budokai games or Budokai Tenkaichi games, which is why 16 years later...
Then I guess, was 2005 the peak of Dragon Ball? Or like around there? Because Dragon Ball is actually like a pretty old dude. I made a 30-minute video into like an hour with the CP, but I don't want to do that. I'll stop pausing as much. So if I'm not, when was the peak of Dragon Ball? Because I feel like it was maybe 2008 or so, around there, right?
After Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was released, no one was expecting what would happen at Dragon Ball Games Battle.
Oh wait, I was born 2004. I don't have the actual date. But from what I've heard of people talk who like are older than me, that's around when they like stopped or something.
2023, right before a Dragon Ball Super card game tournament. It was so baffling. Arguably the biggest Dragon Ball game announcement of all time, placed 30 minutes after the Fighters tournament ended and right before a Dragon Ball Super card game tournament was beginning. No announcement to tune in from like any of their socials, literally nothing. And the crazy thing is, this wasn't a remake announcement. This wasn't a remaster or a collection. It was an actual sequel to Budokai Tenkaichi 3, or as it was known in Japan, Dragon Ball Z Sparking Meteor. And no one could believe it was real.
Tell me if you ever thought in your life this would happen right now, bro.
We obviously all expected a new...
I said I was someone that didn't want to pause. Do people with like gaming machines like this actually play them? Because I feel like, aren't there like for all these machines, there's like a port to PC you can probably download, isn't there? Like a port you can play, and it's not as annoying as like having to sit on one of these chairs and like do. There's even like a gamepad like this for fighting games, so you don't even have to play on keyboard. But even so, they do look pretty cool, like on the background.
Ever thought in your life this would happen right now, bro?
We obviously all expected a new Dragon Ball game at some point, but based on their track record, bringing back an old series just didn't seem possible, and now it was. Now it's real, and we all want to know more info about it. How many characters will it really have, and when will it be released? And all we're left with for 9 months is watching this 5-second clip of Super Saiyan Blue Goku on repeat. I feel like I watched that sequence so many times that I can close my eyes right now and still see it. But December 2023, at the Game Awards, we got our first glimpse of what would now be known as Dragon Ball Sparking.
So it wasn't a shadow drop.
Very brief 60-second trailer, we were so bad. 60 it really looked like Budokai Tenkaichi with a modern coat of paint, and now somehow we were all even more excited than before. They followed that trailer up with our first substantial look at the game in action in March 2024.
Oh, is this Kenshin, the Kenshin guy?
First substantial
Fuck.
60-second trailer, we were so back. It really looked like Budokai Tenkaichi with a modern coat of paint, and now somehow we were...
Yeah, is this a Samurai Kenshin? Was it? Or the Kenshin guy that I hear a lot about when it comes to like fighting games?
all even more
Is it? No, he was skinnier, wasn't he?
excited than before. They
But then
followed
he did
that
take a
trailer up
break,
with our
no?
first substantial look at the game in action in March 2024, and now we mostly had our answer on gameplay. It at least looked like it played very similar to Budokai Tenkaichi with maybe a small touch of Raging Blast in there. So with that, most of the conversations around the game shifted. Now we wanted to know if they could actually deliver on the main thing Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was known for, its huge roster, which Bandai
I
would
think they
slowly
did.
start to have an answer for as they rolled out characters.
They definitely did, right? Because I remember a lot of people talking about how many characters there were. There were a lot of them, and well, not a lot of like individual characters, but a lot of like base characters with different like looks and skills with those looks.
Character trailers throughout 2024, leading us to Summer Games Fest in June, where a select group of people were able to get their hands on the game for the
Dude,
first
having
time
long hair
ever,
sucks.
and the reception from those that played it was overwhelmingly
But
positive.
cutting it sucks
It was
more.
definitely faster paced, but the bones of
3 hours
Budokai
in the
Tenkaichi were
fucking
there. So
barber
much so
shop.
that Dion aka C-Reacts had a clip go viral of him using a BT3 combo in Sparking Zero, and it was the exact same. The first real hands-on gameplay wasn't the only thing we got from Summer Games Fest, because that's also when we got our answer to when it would be released. October 11th, 2024. The hype for Sparking Zero had reached new heights. People had played the game and it was actually fun. We had a release date and we had tons of footage from everyone's hands-on previews that people just couldn't get enough of. Personally speaking, Sparking Zero is some of the most viewed preview content ever on my channel.
His name was Corey Kenshin, not a Samurai Kenshin. It just came to my mind.
Covered every Dragon Ball game released in the last decade, and nothing is really compared to what Sparking Zero was doing pre-launch. The only real concern that the fandom had at this point were some glaringly obvious characters missing from the roster that we had been shown so far. At the end of each trailer, they would show off this grid of characters. And of course, we would all speculate who could fill those final spots as the months went on.
Sure.
And fast forward to about a month before launch,
So they're
we were
building
still
hype
missing
by
two
showing
sets of
that
staple
there's still
from Dragon
characters
Ball
missing.
games,
That's smart.
GT, and movies. Now, in the middle of September, we would get our answer on GT. Rest in peace, Super 17. But we were left wondering
No idea
who
who
they
that
would
is.
cut from the game because there weren't enough spots left after the GT trailer to fit all the movie characters, which would then lead to one of the better trailers they made for Sparking Zero, where Goku expands the grid.
And I'm not done yet!
And that would
Wait,
be the
what?
final trailer before launch a few weeks
Wait. Oh, these guys. That's 3, 4, 5, 6.
And that would be the final
Cool.
trailer before launch a few
I
weeks
thought
later.
Goku was like gonna, you know, like his hands were gonna go like this and like boom. Layer number 2, 50 new characters.
And bring our
But I
total
guess
character
not.
count at launch to 182
I was expecting a bit more
the
there.
most ever in a Budokai Tenkaichi game. It really felt like they were going to do the impossible, release a proper sequel to one of the most beloved Dragon Ball games of all time 17 years later. Sparking Zero was
So could it be that it got
officially out. People were
overhyped,
buying
maybe?
consoles
And it
just
died
to play
because of that?
Sparking Zero. Creators that never cover or even play Dragon Ball games for content were playing Sparking Zero. The game sold 3 million copies just over
Yeah.
the launch weekend. Dragon Ball gaming had never been that up, or so we thought. Now that the game was out in the wild, it was open to its first real criticisms. Obviously on launch day and even through until the next week, people were mostly positive about the game. But as the honeymoon phase started to end, the cracks in Sparking Zero's armor started to show through with what we'll condense down into 5 main issues: story mode, custom battles, gameplay, online, and post-launch content.
Where's the rest of it?
One of the staples of the Budokai Tenkaichi series were the what-if scenarios, and while I do think Sparking Zero has 2 or 3 that I find pretty exceptional, the rest are very forgettable and very tame for a what-if in the world of Dragon Ball. However, it doesn't end with the lack of meaningful what-ifs in the story mode, as each character's story primarily focuses on select sagas from Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, leaving out significant content from GT, OG Dragon Ball, and including
Yeah. This was one of the things that stopped me from watching too much of it. Because I just, when it comes to like Dragon Ball games, I just watch a part of the story until like I'm bored. Then I just, you know, I exit out the video, I'm done. But with this one, what they did was first of all, I don't think there were any animations. It was just, you know, no, there's a fucking dogs, man. I hope you guys can't hear that. What they did was they made it like a novel style where it was text with the character. And they also they didn't show the whole story. They only showed that character, like the parts of the story where that character was. So let's say you're Goku and you weren't part of like this fight. Well, they're not gonna show that fight. So you're not getting the full story. You're just getting like your character's part, which it's like, I don't know. I feel like people defended that when it came out. Personally, I don't see the point. Like, the whole point of a story mode is to see the whole story, not to see just parts of the story. Because what that means is you have to play other characters, which maybe you don't like, to get like the whole story. It just it didn't make sense, even though
None
people
of the
defended it.
movies, with characters like Vegeta and Piccolo having their storyline cut off very short, with both ending in Z and not exploring anything from Dragon Ball Super. Part of the issue with Piccolo specifically is the lack of superhero being base game, which could have benefited both Piccolo and Gohan stories tremendously. And lastly, other than the sparking episodes, the story mode is mostly just a slideshow, which really isn't something you'd expect from a game made in 2024.
Oh yeah, never mind. Yeah, because even novels, like there's a difference between a slideshow and a novel, like gameplay. Because novels, they do have like animations in terms of that, and they do try to like get you immersed. Like they were just pictures here.
Now, my
sorry
argument
about that.
on the side of Sparking Zero is that we didn't need a fully blown story mode in a Dragon Ball game again. A big difference between when BT3 released in 2007 and this game releasing in 2024 is that gaming has changed substantially. Back in the PS2 era of games, the content on the PS2 disc was all the content that game would ever have. DLC didn't really exist back then, nor were live service games nowhere near as prominent as they are today, like Fortnite,
That's a
Valorant, Warzone,
cool, like,
etc. So with all that in mind,
physics.
we have Dragon Ball Z Kakarot that is continually getting updates, and even though it is missing some prominent moments from Z, it is arguably the best way to experience the Dragon Ball Z story in game form. So we don't necessarily need
I saw this
another
one.
game that does that anytime soon. However, to argue against Sparking Zero, we needed more Sparking episode. The main one people talk about is obviously Gohan Black. It's the most out there what if, and it's exactly what we needed more of. I'll be honest, I did enjoy Goku's Super Saiyan in the Saiyan Saga timeline that ended with him fighting a Super Saiyan Vegeta on Namek. That was definitely a fantastic what if storyline, as well as the father-son Vegeta and Trunks moment against Cell. But I'm just surprised they didn't fully embrace more what if. I'm sure they were never trying to make a full encompassing story mode, whether by their own accord or from direct instructions from
Maybe
Bandai
the
to not
budget
do
was
so,
low.
so it wouldn't be a competing product against Kakarot. But to say the what ifs
Just
and story
the
mode-
what ifs were like a big setting point, weren't they? Because I felt like, oh, they have what ifs. Oh, what if I do, like, I'm trying to go for the what ifs. I feel like that's what a lot of people went for, no? So it was like a big part of buying the game.
mode in this game was a letdown for most would probably be an understatement. Also, why are we over 6 months out from release and we still cannot play as Gohan Black? I don't get it.
It's the biggest piece of dog.
This mode pre-release sounded like such a game changer for Dragon Ball games. It appeared to have endless content for Sparking Zero and gave those who don't care about online PvP something to do. We were going to be able to build out all the what ifs and fanfiction moments we had dreamed of actually in game. What if Goku was trapped in the time chamber for forever? Yeah, go make it. It was going to be awesome, but it wasn't. Custom battles feels like such a lifeless mode that is a chore to use from both the creative side and the player side. This mode reminds me of Little Big Planet, except if you removed all the heart and soul. I think once you played a few of these, you've basically played them all. Plus the fact that all the voice lines aren't actually voiced.
Wait,
and
you're
are
not
already
actually
used
fighting? Wait, I thought you were part of the fight. So it's just it just generates a video.
me of Little Big
It's probably a pre-made video, so like I'm just guessing here. I haven't done this, but I'm guessing he always has there's like 5 variations of animations for like different character classes, I'm guessing, and he always does those depending. So it's, yeah, like he said, you use it once and you're done.
them all. Plus the fact that all the voice lines aren't actually voiced and are already completely predetermined with no customization is the final nail in the coffin for this mode for most people. Because watching lifeless characters just stand there as text rolls out on screen to set up scenarios isn't exactly interesting. This is a very controversial topic within the fandom because many wish Sparking Zero played exactly like Budokai Tenkaichi 3. But I'm not
Was it
sure
that
how well
good?
that would have actually translated to a modern game. Have you gone back to play any games from the PS2 era? Yeah, most of them don't have the same feel that we've grown accustomed to with more modern games, which is
Yeah.
why I imagine the devs
That's because you haven't played them in modern times. It's like Oblivion. They just released the Oblivion remastered. Like you see so many like errors, like what they called, mobs or enemies leveling up with you. Like why? What's the point then? The whole point of leveling up is for you to feel stronger than the mobs. But when you level up, the mobs also level up. So you don't have that character progression. That sucks. Having to spam all your abilities to level them up. That also, like, personally, that just sucks. Like, I'm watching Quinn69 play hardcore that, and he's just spamming alteration spells, wall jumping, and doing it. Like, I'm not getting immersed. It just looks like shit. At least just like why are you making it like be able to level up all the time? If it were just in like battles, like using spells in battles levels it up, that would be fine. Then again, no, it wouldn't, because then you'd just be perma jumping, or like you'd be going for like weak enemies, and then just jumping permanently, knowing they can't kill you. Just yeah, it would still be dog shit. Like in theory, it sounds like a fun mechanic, or like you use your spells and they grow stronger. It sounds like a good mechanic, like a fun one. But when it comes to actual like playing, it's just shit. And Oblivion and all these games were games that people loved. Same with I don't know about Tenkaichi or whatever.
Opted for
But yeah, usually it's because you played them as a kid or when games weren't like as good. So in your mind you think, yeah, this game was the best. I played it all day. I had a ton of fun. If you go back, like it might honestly be unplayed. What was the name of that one? Invader Sim? Was it that? Fuck, I forgot. But there was one game that just was absolute shit, and I saw people were talking, saying it was good.
In Sparking Zero. Outside of the movement changes, I think one of the biggest changes that has impacted most people's experience with Sparking Zero's gameplay is their emphasis on defense and.
By the way, let me just say this: I'm a hater of games used to be so good. Like those people, I fucking hate that thought process, especially because. Give me a second. 1 second. Let's see if I can find it. Let's do this. Because it just pisses me off. Fuck, it's not here. YouTube has been spamming this YouTube short forever, and all of a sudden I'm looking for it. It's not here. Really? And it's a YouTube short that puts is it here? No, fuck. And it's a YouTube short that puts what's it called? Forspoken on the top and says modern gaming. And then it puts The Witcher down and it puts old gaming or whatever. And it's like, are you retarded? You're putting a failure of a game that didn't even last 3 weeks against like a game that every time I hear about it or it comes up in the conversation, people are like, yeah, that game was so good. Like, we want more of that. I wish I could I want to replay it. You do realize back then there were also Forspokens, right? You know what was the difference? The internet wasn't as big. So when there was a failure like Forspoken back then, the people who made it just went broke or whatever, and the game wasn't put into the mainstream public. People didn't see the game failed. People didn't see, oh, the studio shut down because they made a failure. If you want to compare a good game from back then, compare it to a good game from now, like Kingdom Come, like 2, because the first one came like 10 years, was from 10 years ago or some shit. The Expedition 33, I haven't played it or seen it, but people say it's good. Compare The Witcher to that. Like, compare it to modern games that are also good. Or you can compare shit games from back then to shit games from now. But don't compare good, like, masterpieces, some people call it, from back then to shit games from now. Like, maybe people don't see what you're doing, but I can see it. It's like, pisses me off. Wait, why is it
the
an
priority on
360?
counters in Sparking Zero compared to BT3
Fucking annoying.
drastically changes the flow of the game and is, in my opinion,
Dude,
the
I'm
reason
gonna
why
make a
I think
video
most
about
people
it,
say
if
this
I can
doesn't
find that
feel like
short.
BT3. I think
Sorry, let's get
ultimately
back
they
into
were
the
trying
video.
their best to appeal to those of us from the original Budokai Tenkaichi era, while also creating a new experience for people to enjoy who have become Dragon Ball fans in more recent years. It's not quite Budokai Tenkaichi or really any other Dragon Ball Arena fighter. It's really its own form.
Dude, I can't concentrate because of that dog shit. Fucking. Let me drink some water. Give me a second, guys.
And with some minor changes, I think that is completely fine. The online in this game boils down to basically two different modes, tournaments and ranked. I am very thankful that they kept tournament mode in this game because it is definitely the most fun I've personally had online with Sparking Zero.
Now you play with viewers or friends.
Definitely something. I will stand by the fact that this game is meant to be unbalanced. UI Goku should by all accounts destroy a character like Jace in a game like this.
Sure.
That does of course inherently create a problem for online ranked, especially
well, what it does is it makes people only play the good characters. Because if they know, okay, I'm playing this character and I'm never gonna win, then what's the point? What's the point of playing the weak, like Cockroach? When people are gonna play this, like people don't like losing. So when the PvP is unbalanced, everyone is gonna slide towards the like 3 or 2 characters that are good. That's the problem with the unbalanced gameplay. Even though it's fun when you're like this guy and you're pretty much 100-0 throwing the don't cap kid. It is what it is. Like, you have to decide, do you want to go the lore wise or the fun wise? Like, unbalanced is fun towards the guy beating your ass because his character is just broken.
In singles, and people like to use their favorite characters.
Sorry, I didn't explain that well, but
most
like,
people's favorite
I'm still heated
characters
from
are
before.
also when they're at their strongest, aka UI Goku, Astro Shape 4 Gogeta, Beast, just to name a few. And that's the majority of what you'll see when diving into online rank. Good luck out there, Raditz Banes. This is where the biggest problem for this game and its longevity arises. Once you finish all the episodes in the story mode, you're left with 2 options if you still want to play Sparking Zero. Custom battles, which we've already discussed, is probably not going to retain
either
too
play
many players,
the
and
OP
then
character
online,
or you
which
get
in
your
an
ass kicked.
intentionally unbalanced game makes for a mostly bad experience.
Yep.
A big difference between BT3 and Sparking Zero is that BT3 didn't have online. The same unbalance was there, but you only ever played that game with your friends locally, and unless you were friends with someone from the competitive scene, you likely never experienced anything like this in BT3. While they can obviously combat that and have nerfed several different cheesy strats since launch, people
and the thing is, if your friend like played some dipshit character and just spam the one attack, you just say, fuck you, man, I don't want to play with you if you're gonna do this shit. And you could get him to like play normally. You can't do this with online, because the moment the match ends, guess what you're doing? You're queuing into another match. There's like no actual communication.
To win in a game like this will likely always...
And if you put voice chat in this, well, you and the opponent aren't friends. If he does some disgusting like a combo, let's just say some gamer words are gonna come out.
Find some type of exploit they can take advantage of to improve their chances of winning while diminishing your experience and chances of you ever playing this game again. Which is why I think most people have actually stepped away from this game.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't use the bug, then your opponent is gonna use the bug. So do you wanna be the one getting fucked by the bug? Or do you wanna be the one fucking your opponent by the bug? With the bug, I mean. I wanna be the one like fucking them up. Like I wanna be the one having fun. That's why I'm playing the game. Which sucks. Because you shouldn't need to use the bug.
Sparking Zero has received several patches that have fixed a lot of the initial issues people had with this game. Adjustment to skill cost, counters, and tons of different adjustments to the battle system, but ultimately, balance patches are only going to appeal to so many players. They aren't exactly going to get people that haven't touched the game since week 1 to come back all of a sudden because they rebalanced this move or that move or this skill.
Also, sorry, dude, I'm pausing. The thing, I guess, technically you can't copyright this video, right? Because I'm doing fair use. I'm making it a 60-minute video into like a 1-hour video. The thing is also, a lot of the people who played, let's see if I can find the shard. I can't. A lot of the people who play Dragon Ball games also do it for the story alone. So after they're done with the story, there's no reason for them to come back until more story is put into the game. Because, like, it might sound weird, but a lot of people for some reason aren't competitive. Like, I learned this from League of Legends. Like, ranked in League is actually the minority, even though it's like a PvP game where, like, the whole, like, you think of League of Legends, and you think, okay, yeah, that's a super hardcore ranked gaming sphere for gamers. But a lot of the players, if I'm not wrong, they're in ARAM and like the small events they're doing now, or in normals. They aren't actually playing ranked, if I'm not wrong.
It really takes new modes, new characters, and just new content.
Actually, we can
in
search
general.
that up. Where is where is the biggest of the players? Game mode. Maybe that fixes it. It's might. Is this retarded? Wait, if that. Oh, okay, yeah, because ARAM isn't Summoner's Rift, right? Dude, oh my god. Yeah, Arena. Whatever. There's probably a chart somewhere. But yeah, like, ranked isn't the biggest game mode. Other people just like playing casually. And, from what he's talked about online, it seems the opposite of casual.
To get new players and old players back interested in your game. You don't see Fortnite's player
Add more
population
story.
spike because they just made adjustments to certain weapons. It's when new modes or new seasons start with completely new content that get people to come back to the game or possibly download it for the first time ever. In the 6 months since launch, we really only had two main content drops so far.
I never really
Superhero
understood
DLC
the
pack that had 11 characters in it, and one new mode called
Fortnite
Face Off, where you take on an extremely difficult AI controlled
like blow
character,
up.
and that's it. To say most of us were disappointed by the Superhero DLC pack
I
is
played it
definitely
twice,
an
if I'm
understatement.
not
I
wrong.
think most of us expected stages to be included
Then
with the characters
stopped.
at bare minimum, especially given there's only 11 stages in the base game. And stop, Destroyed Namek does not count as an additional stage. It's basically just Namek. I also really thought it would include some content for the game's story mode and Gohan and Piccolo's episode battles, but unfortunately that was not the case. A Dragon Ball game that has surprisingly managed to maintain its player base and shocked most of us is Xenoverse 2. That game is currently working towards 9 years of decently consistent updates, which is something I don't think most of us expected back in 2016 when Xenoverse 2 initially launched. Xenoverse 2, though, has two major differences from Sparking
Which
Zero
one's
that has likely
Xenoverse?
contributed to its longevity. Create a character and co-op. Sparking Zero has some customization, but unfortunately it is yet another weak spot for this game. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of CACs in Dragon Ball games, but they do offer a ton of opportunities for replayable content and updates. They can drop new cosmetics or skills that you can farm to give to your CAC that Sparking Zero just can't do. In Xenoverse, it actually gives you a reason to want to play the game, and since they act as drops, it also gives you something to work toward. Then there's the co-op aspect of Xenoverse 2, which is also pretty huge. You can do team fights or actual raid bosses where you get to work together with your friends instead of always just fighting them. Because games like Apex, Warzone, and Fortnite are also popular because you can hop on with your friends each night and team up to work towards a common goal. And that's something you just can't do in Sparking Zero. And I know you could say, well, what about insert fighting game here? But the issue with that is that this isn't designed like those games at all. And since they embrace the party game aspect of Sparking Zero, I think it would benefit heavily from some co-op type modes. And I think that Legendary Warrior Face-Off mode would have benefited tremendously from co-op in Sparking Zero. That mode sounded really cool, and I actually had slight hopes that they would implement some type of co-op type mode for it. Of course, they did not. But just going on there and fighting a really difficult AI completely by myself does not entice me that much. However, if there was actually built-in co-op to go take on this raid boss with my friends, I would have
Like
done
co-op,
it
does he
multiple
mean
times
like
over at this
switching
point.
into like your friend? Like you're playing 1v1, then you like switch in your friend's character? Or actual like there's two people?
Mode was begging for co-op so badly that the three idiots had to do this crazy workaround in 2025 so that they could take on this huge new crazy AI boss in a cooperative play using, I'm sure, some sort of Steam remote play or something like that. So the three idiots going through hoops to turn a single player mode into a cooperative play mode, I think goes to show how badly this game, especially being a party game,
I can see
needed
that.
some sort of cooperative feature to allow you to actually play with your friends versus just having to play against them all the time. Obviously, we have
Actually-
the Diamond DLC.
I actually didn't think like co-op was that big of a thing, right? With this, that's actually nice to know.
to look forward to, but I think with their current post-launch content pace and a lack of any other real announcements at the moment, they are likely looking forward to the future beyond Sparking Zero. I mentioned this in the beginning, but during an interview, Furuotani, the producer of Sparking Zero, stated that the game is designed to be a new foundation for the future sequels in this series. So as a starting point,
So it's
I
gonna
think
be the
Sparking
main
Zero
game.
is great. I don't necessarily think it's quite to the level of Xenoverse 2 where they could just update it through patches and DLCs. Imagine we need a proper sequel or two before we could see what this series could truly become. And hey, when I ask most people what their favorite Tenkaichi game is, they never say one. It's usually an overwhelming amount of Budokai Tenkaichi 3s with a few BT2s sprinkled in there. I see a lot of people thinking they'll treat Sparking Zero the same way they've treated Xenoverse 2, and that will be getting DLC for the next decade. But I truly believe we'll have a sequel to Sparking Zero in the next couple of years instead. I think the series has an incredibly bright future. I think that Sparking Zero is a fantastic foundation for what will likely become a new trilogy
So,
of games.
he didn't
And
say
while this
anything
game
about the
obviously has some
core
shortcomings
game.
with the customization,
I think he's pretty much done, right? Yeah, he's just doing a recap. So, his name is Nanogenics. Go give a like and subscribe if you liked the video. So the thing is, he didn't say that the core game was the problem, right? Because let's see, where is it? The hype or whatever. Launched, yes, yeah. So story mode, you could add DLC or like a patch where you explored the new stories which weren't explored here, right? He had like a... Can I see it? Fuck. Well, he put like 5 or so that weren't covered in the story. They could technically do that and actually put animations and shit, or maybe just do a complete revamp of the story, make it less of a slideshow and actual like animations. So that can be fixed, I feel like. They probably won't do it, but it can't be fixed online. They just have to like abandon the lore and fix the bugs. Because the thing with bugs is a lot of bugs, if not all, they're not fun to use. They're not immersive. They just feel shitty. It feels like you're breaking the game. Like you're not actually winning because you're good. You're winning because the game is broken. And losing to a bug feels even worse. So like there's no win in that situation. You have to fix that. Online. I don't know. Like online I think can be fixed. They just have to make other characters as strong. You can't have like 3 strong characters. Because people want to win. Because winning is fun. If you don't do that, you're just... If you don't play this, yeah, you have to make them balanced somehow. Or maybe not completely balanced, but the weak characters have to be able to like be able to win. What was this part? Content can be added. Yeah, I think that's about it, right? Like the game can't be fixed if they're trying to make this like the main Dragon Ball game, which is a bit weird because I feel like Dragon Ball Kakarot has like a better foundation, no? Because it's like 3D, it's I don't know. Maybe I missed something with that game. And it's if the game can be fixed basically. Like this game could be like all these problems people have, they can be fixed basically. Like the video, I'll put the video link in the description. Dude, I gotta make a video about like the whole old game versus new game shit. Fucking hate the people who use it. By the way, I accidentally stopped the recording, so I'm gonna have to go to like DaVinci Resolve or whatever, put them together. Fuck, it's gonna take forever. Peace. Have a good day.